All right, so let's find some more. What if we have a negative x equals a negative 2/3? So in this case, here's a little fence. X is almost by itself. It's got a -1 coefficient. And so I need to get x completely by itself. So what I'm going to do is divide both sides by -1, which all that's going to do is change the signs on both sides. So if the opposite of x is negative 2/3, then x must be positive 2/3. So again, just practicing getting all of these x's by themselves. So I've got 1/8 times x is -5. And this is going to go back to what we were saying before about where we can write this x. I can write this x on top with the 1 and multiply it. So I could write that as x over 8 equals -5, or I could leave it like this. So I'm going to show you both ways. In this case, this says 1/8 times x. So how do I get rid of a 1/8 if it's being multiplied? I need to divide both sides by 1/8. So any number divided by itself is 1. Well, when I come over here, remember that this is a -5 over 1 divided by 1/8 means times 8. So I flip and multiply by the reciprocal. So this answer gives me a -40. Okay, now, what's the benefit of writing it this way? This says x divided by 8 is -5. So if it's joined by division, how do I kill division? I multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. Any number divided by itself is 1. And I still get -40. So that's one of the benefits of writing that x on top of the numerator, is it kind of makes that process right there a little bit cleaner. Either way, you get -40. All right, so I want to find some more interesting ones. That one is interesting. All right, so let's do this one. We have 0.7x minus 0.2 is going to equal 0.6x plus 5. So first of all, there's my little guiding line. That's the fence. So I've got my x's plus or minus numbers, x's plus or minus numbers. You'll notice that I always write a 0 in front of my decimal point, because nobody writes the number 17 as 017. Okay, so for me to see a 0 implies that there's a decimal point following, and that's just in case you're writing quickly or you can't see because the video is fuzzy, whatever, you'll know that there's a decimal there. So that is something I would strongly recommend you doing, just because it makes your math a whole lot clearer. The next thing I want to do is, just like I didn't like dealing with fractions, I don't like dealing with decimals either. So if you'll read these as decimals instead of just as 0.7, what this says is 7/10, 2/10, 6/10, and 5. So you just told me what to multiply by to get rid of all of the decimals, because it's 7/10. So if I multiply all 4 chunks by 10, I can do anything I want to, as long as I do it to the entire equation. Then think of this as money. 70 cents times 10 means I have $7. Okay, so what happened? I moved my decimal once to the right. Minus 20 cents times 10 means I got $2. 60 cents times 10 means I've got 6. And then 10 times 5 is 50. Make sure you do it to all 4 chunks. People will think, oh, I just need to do it to these 3 because they're the only ones with decimals. He's got a decimal. I'm just too lazy to write it. Okay? And now I'm in a situation where I'm more familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and compare. My 6x's are smaller than my 7x's. So I'm going to change its sign and get rid of it. So now I have a single x minus 2 is 50. And then what do I do? This says 1x minus 2, so I need to add 2 to get rid of it. So that gives me x is 52. Now, do you need to fix it and go back into decimal land? No, we didn't fix it when we did decimals. As long as I multiply it to all 4 chunks, it gives me an equivalent expression. And so that your answer is 52. Even if I had left it in decimal world, it would have still been 52. Okay, so let's do some more. I've got 7 times 3x plus 6 equals 11 minus x plus 2. So I'm going to take this a step at a time. There's my little dividing part. I shouldn't say dividing. There's my little fence. So can I clean up the left side? Yes, I can. I can distribute that 7 to both sides. So I'm going to distribute him. So it gives me 21 x's plus 42. What can I do on the right? I can distribute this -1. So remember, that's a -1. What's the result going to be? It's going to change that from a positive x to a negative x, and from a positive 2 to a -2. So that gives me 11 minus x minus 2. So distribute that -1 through. So this side is as simplified as it can be. This side has got a little bit more to do. So I've got 21 x's plus 42 equals a -x, and then this is 11 minus 2 is positive 9. So I'm going to move my smaller x's. So comparing 21 x's to -1x, he's smaller. So change his sign on both sides of the equation. So 22 x's plus 42 is 9. And now my x's are on the left, so get rid of that 42, change his sign. So I get 22 x's, and now a -42 plus 9. I kind of went over this like 1 or 2 videos ago. I can subtract and just use the sign of the bigger number. Since your signs are different, subtract. So 42 minus 9 is 33, but it's going to be -33. And then I can divide both sides by 22. So x is, so this is my answer. I just need to see if I can reduce it. And I can divide top and bottom by 11. So the top divided by 11 and the bottom divided by 11. So that is your final answer. All right, so some more with decimals. We've got a -2.6x. Plus 2 is -5.5 minus 1.1 x. So again, this is a -2.6 tenths, or a -2 and 6 tenths x plus 2 equals -5 and 5 tenths minus 1 and 1/10 x. So I'm going to multiply all 4 chunks by 10, which is going to result in me moving the decimal place over to the right 1 spot. So instead of a -2.6x, that's going to be a -26x. Instead of a 2, that's going to be a 20. There's a little 0.0 sitting there that I'm too lazy to write, so I just moved it over once. Equals a -55 minus 11x. So again, you can leave it in decimal world if you want to, just like you could have left it in fraction world earlier. It's just easier, and we're lazy math people. So now I'm going to compare. This is variables plus or minus numbers. We got variables plus or minus numbers. It's okay that these are flip-flopped instead of putting the -11x first. I really don't care. But which one is smaller, -26 or -11? So -26 is smaller. He's further to the left on the number line, if you think about it that way. So that means that my variables have been forced. 26 minus 11 is 15. My variables have been forced to the right, so I need to move this constant over to the left. So I'm going to add 55. So I get 75 equals 15x. And then how is the 15 connected? It's connected through multiplication. So to remove it, we divide. So I get 5 equals x. I notice I keep boxing and then curly bracketing and stuff. And do not worry about changing it back. You're done. You created when you multiplied through by 10. This isn't it looks the same. That's a lie. It looks completely different, but it means the same thing. Okay? It has the same ratios and stuff as the other one does. All right, so let's get some messier ones. We have -7 times v plus 2 plus 4v plus 7 equals 5v plus 11. So I'm kind of happy because on the right side of the equal sign, that's already cleaned up. It's already just variables plus or minus numbers. This has got some work to do. So what do I know how to do on the left? Well, I know how to distribute, and then I can combine like terms. So I get a -7v minus 14 plus 4v plus 7, and the right side did not change. So how many v's do I have? Don't change signs over here. You only change signs if you're moving them from one side to the other across the equal sign. So I've got -7v's plus 4v's is -3v's. And then -14 plus 7 is -7. So now what do? Now I'm going to compare. I've got variables plus or minus numbers, variables plus or minus numbers. So the -3 is smaller than the 5. So I'm going to add 3v to both sides. So -7 is 8v plus 11. And then what do I have from there? My v's are isolated on the right, so that means I need to get my numbers onto the left. So I'm going to subtract 11. So -18 is 8v. Then what do? Divide both sides by 8. Any number divided by itself is 1. So both of these are divisible by 2. So I get -9/2. -9/2. Okay? And for our final one for the section, we have 6x plus 6 plus 5 times x plus 1 equals -5x plus 2. So again, the right side is already as simple as possible. The left side, we got some stuff to do. So what do we know how to do on the left? Well, I know how to distribute that 5. So I've got a 6x plus 6 plus 5 times x plus 5 is -5x plus 2. So I'm going to put my x's together. I'm going to put my constants together. So that gives me 11x's plus 11 is -5x's plus 2. So now compare your x's because we've got the format down. We've got the x's plus or minus numbers equals x's plus or minus numbers. So this is my smaller set, so change his sign. So I get 16x's plus 11 is 2. And then since my x's are on the left, I need to get rid of that 11. So change his sign. So I get 16x's is -9. So this is another instance. Your signs are different, so subtract. 11 minus 2 is 9, but take the sign of the bigger number. So it's -9. And now how do I get rid of the 16? I divide. So any number divided by itself is 1, so my answer is -9/16. And that is it.